Good morning, travelers. As I said in my last video, I was going to tell you what had to be done exactly to Vinny to fix the axle, the broken axle on the van. It's been a few weeks since that accident occurred, and it's all done now, and we're on the road. We're back driving around. In fact, we're back at the property, which I'll give you an update on that in the next video, so you have to stay tuned to get that update. But let me talk to you a little bit about Vinny, and let me show you little special things on him. And pause this. Those of you that have been here for a while know that Vinny's a little different than every other van on the road. If you look straight on, like I'm looking straight on, you'll see the width of this van. It's not a little van. If you notice right here, I'm going to point this out. On a standard Dodge van, the grill touches the lights. This part right here is 6 inches. And there's another one on the other side over there, 6 inches. That means this van is 12 inches wider than any van on the road. The other thing is that the front wheels side to side are wider than the back wheels side to side. The other thing is the axle is been lengthened to accommodate the width of the van. Now, yes, Vinny's a cool van, lots of room in there, tons of sleeping space. However, Vinny has special equipment on that van. Now, what I am super happy about is that when they widened Vinny, they left the motor, transmission, what they call the pumpkin, which is the gearbox in the back, the rear end, all on standard where it came. And as you see back here on the back, again, 6 inches, 6 inches, foot wider than a standard van. So everything underneath had to be widened and lengthened to accommodate the size of this van. And look at this little dog over here. Sidetrack. He's got to eat sticks. Everything goes in his mouth. Everything. Jake's smart though, he's in the shade because it is pretty warm out here today. Anyway, everything on this van had to be made wider. Now, this is the wheel that I have my problem with. And if you could see down here, these are the nuts that take the wheel off. These are the nuts that keep the axle on. And inside this hub here is where you have your bearings and you have your nut that holds the axle into place. Now, on this particular van, there's a nut in there called a nylock nut, which is a nut that has a little nylon ring, and it has a teeny tiny, and I mean teeny tiny, little cotter pin that holds it on. I can't believe that they put such a device on such a heavy vehicle, because this is a 1 ton. It's a 1 ton van. So what happened is that nut is supposed to be replaced every time you take the wheel housing off and you access the bearings. So every time you do that, you have to replace that nut, because if you don't, it will not seal and it will not stay there. And what happened with mine is it worked its way backwards, and this whole wheel came out to about this far, came clear out here, and you can hear it grinding. All the gears stop because now there's nothing moving the van anymore. We're at a dead stop, and then all of a sudden the weight of the van, because this is a 9,000 pound van, fell down onto that axle and busted it in half. Now, I can't crawl under to show you anything underneath, and I'm not even going to try because I can't crawl. But let me pause this and turn back to me. So, I got the sun behind me, so that doesn't work too great. Anyway, I'm really grateful that they left the engine and the transmission and driveline and everything right down where it originally was. Because if they didn't, I don't think we'd be out here on the road at this point. Because what happened is when I got to the shop, the mechanic said, okay, we have to replace the entire rear end on this particular van because that would be the easiest to find an axle. Just get another rear end and put it on. Now he knows the special uniqueness of this van, and he knows that things are built a little differently. So when he measured the axle, he found out that my axle was 10 inches longer than even a Class A motorhome's rear axle, so he couldn't find an axle to put in this van. And he couldn't find a rear end. So what he thought he would do was take the two pieces of the axle, drill a hole down the middle and put a pin in there, and then weld that together and then put it back in the housing. But before he did that, he would weld two of the gears together to change this van from a two-wheel drive to a one-wheel drive, which meant that all the other wheels were dependent on that one wheel driving it. Therefore, off-road's over, back roads are over, it's only good for pavement driving, and climbing hills would have been a real issue because I was pulling the trailer. So that didn't sound like a great option to me. So when the guy was working on my hub, and he had to pound that back round. When the axle came out, it bent it. So he had to pound it back round so that that nut, the new nut, would fit. And what he did is he took the old nut, cut it in half, put it on top of the threads, and then he was able to pound on top of that and not damage the threads, which I thought was a really good idea. And when he got it all round, he pulled the other side of the axle out. And I got to looking at it and I noticed it was short. And I realized the pumpkin was off-centered. It wasn't in the center of the rig like 90% of the vehicles on the road is. And I asked him, I said, can you remeasure that? Because I have an idea. I have a theory, but let's just check it. And he remeasured it. And my theory is that because they didn't move everything to the center and lengthen both sides, that everything on the driver's side is standard size. And sure enough, it was standard. So my mechanic ordered one from Phoenix, and before he wanted it finalized, he wanted them to open the box, take a look at it, and make sure it had the number of cogs on it that it needed, and the length. He wanted to verify all that. Phoenix wouldn't do that. They were going to mail it, and then that was up to us to check it out, and if it wasn't the right one, we had to mail it back. That would have been another week sitting at the mechanic shop. We were already there almost a week. So that wasn't good enough for my mechanic. So he knows places in all over the place. He's a certified mechanic, and he deals with a lot of different junkyards and that. And he found an axle in Los Angeles. And the axle was about 5/16, a little bit too long, but it had everything else that we needed. And he said, we can always cut it down. We can't make it bigger, but we can make it smaller. So he was going to order it from them, and that would have taken, again, a week to get it to where he was at. But by the grace of God, there was a man there at the mechanic shop getting his Jeep fixed. He had to have a part that was on the gas tank, and the only place they found that was at this same place in Los Angeles. And he was going to go there the next day and pick up his gas tank. So he volunteered to pick up Vinnie's axle. So when he went out there to California, he came back the following day, which was a Friday, I think. I can't remember what day it was, because we got there on a Monday, so it was really close to the end of the week. And he came back, and almost believing it was Friday morning, he came in with the axle. And the guys at the shop had gotten everything put back together the way it needed to be. because when Vinnie was towed, they ground the wheel, the flywheel that's inside, they ground it flat. And that all had to be pounded out as well to make it round to fit in the hub again. So this guy who did all the hand pounding work, he did an amazing job. Everything was perfect. Everything was fit like a glove when he got it done. So they put the new axle in, greased the bearings up, fixed everything that needed to be there, put a new nylon lock on there. And I asked him if he would check the other side. And it came over to the passenger side and took the wheel off, and that nylock was hand loosened. They didn't even have to use tools on it, which told me and them that that would have been the next one coming off, and it would have came off in short order. So they replaced that one as well, so that one's good, because if that axle had broke, I don't know where we would have found another one. We'd have had to go to a specialty shop and have it constructed for this van. Now, if anything breaks in the front, as far as like the axles and all the suspension up front, those all have to be specially ordered as well. So, and then the other thing that this van has, which would be a special order, is this. See that big old piece of glass? That's 8 feet plus, and it's curved on both sides. And to get a new one of those, I'm gonna guess we're looking at a couple $1,000s, and to get one made, I don't even know if they can make them. This is dating back to 1997. I don't know if they make those anymore, but that to be replaced would be insane. Most everything else is standard on this van. I can't. Let's see if I can open the hood here. Yes, we're powered by fairy dust. And up there, that's my fairy cage. That's where I keep the fairies. Not really. Okay. But if you see underneath the hood here, the motor's in the standard position, just as any other Dodge would be. But over here, check this out. There's a foot of space over here, big enough to put in another battery and a big huge cave down there. And all of this on that side has been moved over, but this in the middle is right where it's supposed to be. So the moral of this story is, those of you who like unusual, strange looking vehicles like the GMC motorhomes or altered vehicles, when you go to get them, remember, parts may not be available for your selected rig. Older motorhomes, older vehicles, parts are difficult to find. Yes, they're cheaper. You can get them pretty cheap. And sometimes they have low miles and they look really great and they're awesome. They drive well. I mean, I know people that have vehicles from the 1970s that are still out on the road. They have super low miles. They work really good. But if they have a breakdown, they're going to have a hard time finding the parts. And that could be an issue. And those parts, because they're harder to find, can be more expensive. I know I was looking at approximately $1,000 to get this fixed, so I thought, hallelujah, it was only $580, and that's parts, labor, everything. And I know the guy who pounded out my rim, he took hours. I'm talking all day to do that. And I know at, $100 an hour, he took at least 5 or 6 hours to do it. So it doesn't equate to the price that they quoted me. But I really give him kudos because he is an honest mechanic and he didn't overcharge me. In fact, I think probably he undercharged me. This has been about the 4th or 5th time I've been there with this van. Every time he sees it, he cringes, but he loves working on it because it's so unusual. But anyway, that's the moral of this story. I'm not sure if this is going to be tagged in the new Mad 101 series. I don't think so. as this is relevant to any RVer or van dweller or car dweller out there. You know, I love the cars that have character. I can't stand these new vehicles that all look the same. And I like Vinny because he's got character. He's different. He's way different. He's different than any other van that I've seen out on the road. In fact, I've had a lot of people want a van like this because it is so big and there is a lot of room inside. So be careful when you buy. Make sure you can get parts. Make sure you maintain and keep everything up to par. Get those bearings checked every year. Get everything checked on it. And if you've got a part that has to be replaced every year, replace the gosh darn part. Don't cheap out. Those parts are 40 bucks. If I'd have known that, I'd have had them checked when they change the tires or do the brakes. I'd have had those checked and I'd have them replaced. $40 is nothing compared to the $700 tow that I dealt with that Progressive, thank God, paid for. I'm still waiting for my refund from them on my part. And the $580 for the mechanics. And the week of being down, not being able to go anywhere. And the nerve-wracking, pure anxiety of, can we find a part? Will I be able to travel again? Will I lose my home to it being impounded because I don't have the money to pay for such an expensive tow? All that anxiety could have been avoided by having new bolts on there. Or nuts, excuse me. I had no idea that those things existed. Now I do. The last thing I want to leave you with is whenever you go to a shop and you have a mechanic going to work on things, tell them you want your parts. You want all of your used parts, all of them. And they better be yours, not something they dug off the workbench or out of their trash heap. Your parts. And then you can throw them away when you're done. But that just kind of gives you a little more insurance that they've actually changed the part that they said they were going to change. And have them show you what broke on that part, so that you know that it is a broken part and not just, well, we need to change this and we're going to charge you for this. So just remember that. Get your parts back. You can dispose of them later, but make sure that you keep your mechanic on the up and up. And if you have a friend that can go with you, sometimes that helps. They don't even have to say anything. They can just be there. If not, go in there like you own the place. You know, don't let them push you around. I appreciate all of your well wishes and all of your sympathy to us when we were broken down, and you know, several of you tipped in the PayPal jar for help. And I'm not saying that to ask for anything. I'm not. I'm thanking them from the bottom of my heart because it was gracious. And I understand we are in a what is it? An economic mess financially. So I understand, and I do not even ask anybody to send anything. I appreciate what people have done. I seriously do. And those of you who couldn't, I appreciate you too just as much. So don't feel guilty, please. Anyway, I love all of you guys, really, truly. And I don't use that word very flippantly. And the reason I say I love all of you guys is because you've been gracious with your comments. You have helped me emotionally. A lot of you have prayed for me, and you've helped us all spiritually. So I do. I send out my thank you from the bottom of my heart. Well, I'm done here, and I'm going to leave you with a little bit of video of the pups. They're not doing anything but laying around. But as I always tell you, follow your heart, embrace your dreams, and cherish your life. And get out there and do something fun today. So I'm going to turn you around and let you see a little bit of our internal camp here. Hold on. Quark, what do you got? Pine cone. Okay. We've put up some little flaggies. Got our little wind thingy going here. I do believe it's a Labrador. My friend Patricia gave me that for my birthday. Our little flag, our king frog. Oops, went the wrong way. We've got Dusty out here. We've got Outback. And we've got Rad over there. Rad's underneath a tarp. Rad's our electric bike. And then, of course, right around is Vinny. And Jake, laying in the shade. Say hi, Jake. Can you say hi, Jake? Not very good. Anyway, until next time, we'll talk to you later.